Welcome to No Free Lunch, Africa's freshest business and tech podcast. And today's edition is all about the automotive sector in South Africa that is facing headwinds with future sustainability questions being raised in the industry. And with me today, I'm happy to have Peter van Binsbergen, the CEO of BMW Group South Africa. And Peter, welcome to No Free Lunch. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Greg. Thanks for having me.
We chatted briefly the other day in terms of the motor industry. You gave the industry a media update on what's going on. Subsequently, though, we've seen a couple of shifts and changes in the automotive industry. Doesn't stand still, let's put it that way. And yesterday saw some announcements coming out of one of your competitors saying that they're concerned about the future sustainability. What's your view on the future of local vehicle production? Are we going to see more models being built here, or is the focus shifting towards exports and regional hubs? Where are we going?
Greg, the auto industry in South Africa is, in my opinion, at a crossroads right now. There's two main reasons for that. The one is we're seeing that the local manufacturers are selling less and less product in South Africa. A number of years back, we were selling 2 out of every 3 cars sold in South Africa were produced in South Africa. Now it's 1 out of every 3. And at the same time, due to the current geopolitical shifts, we're seeing that the export business is under pressure. And we've become very, very reliant on Europe and the UK for our exports. And furthermore, of course, looking a little bit further into 10 years from now, if Europe is going to go 100% battery electric vehicle, that's the next hurdle we got to cross, because not a single company in South Africa yet produces a full battery electric vehicle. So I think we're at a crossroads right now, and we need to make some decisions together with government into ensuring that our industry stays and thrives, and that more brands come to South Africa and produce cars. Otherwise, we might see it going the way of Australia, which no longer has a producing industry.
And of course, we've seen the Morocco market growing and their automotive sector growing rapidly, in fact, and now having overtaken South Africa. So that's not good news for the local industry here. Some of the challenges obviously are high transport costs. Another one is obviously our electricity costs, but there's also policy issues. And those policy issues are making life difficult, shall we say, for the automotive industry. The government had announced that they were going to provide incentives for fully electric vehicle development. Has that actually been fulfilled? Have they actually started, finalizing those policies and the support that they intended for that industry? Because, as you mentioned, that's quite a big growing market, certainly from a European perspective.
Before I answer that, let me just make one point clear. The auto industry producing cars at the tip of Africa and exporting them into the world is not kind of a naturally thought of idea. The government did it on purpose because automotive is a very strong contributor to the manufacturing sector. It's a very strong contributor to skilled jobs. And therefore, the South African government wanted an auto sector in South Africa producing cars, and they created a package to support that. It was called MIDP, and now it's called APDP. So the auto industry needs a supporting package to stay in South Africa. I think that's a very important basis. And if we want production in South Africa, if we want the jobs here, we need the support. And that means that we need to obviously look together with government as the landscape changes and adapt the support program. And that's what we're really calling for. If you look at what you've mentioned, the new energy vehicle program, it's been talked about for a couple of years now. We've heard announcements, but the proper structure that allows us to invest and B, manufacture and be competitive is not yet complete. And very importantly, what was announced officially was only for battery electric vehicles. But our industry is an industry that works in increments and steps. And of course, the steps between internal combustion and battery electric are hybrid and plug-in hybrids. And therefore, we've been very adamant with government. And in fact, our president announced at SA Auto Week in October of 2024 in Cape Town that they would include those derivatives into the program. They still aren't there. And I think that's what's going, it's going too slowly to really have the auto investors in this country take those steps required to make those incremental steps. BMW, for example, went ahead without the program and said, we need to electrify our Roslin plant. So we brought the plug-in hybrid to Roslin in October of 2024. And the reason we did that was very clearly because we wanted to future-proof our factory.
Yeah.
But the level of localization could have been much deeper had we had the program in place already.
And this is the thing, it's the automotive industry globally, you have concentrations of production on specific models in regions that make sense for the global market. It's not just a local market focus. And in fact, the X3 has been your big success story here with major exports. And also, as far as I know, it's the only factory producing it worldwide. So that's a clear advantage. And you've spoken about so many models coming on board now, the newer Cluster, for instance, but none of those models are heading for South Africa. VW spoke about a similar thing, about they're waiting for Germany to approve them, starting to produce new models, which hasn't come. So how does that change? How does that shift? Where are the levers? Is it simply applying more pressure onto government? Because we've already seen Nissan leave South Africa. We don't want to see more manufacturing leave this country. What needs to happen for that to change?
I think what's important, and this is what we called for when we went to the portfolio committee in Parliament on the 27th of January, and what we also called for in our written submission to them and to the DTIC, in fact, is an adjustment of the existing program. We're not looking for anything radical, and I think that's very important. The headlines that you saw in the press of 50% duties, that's not what the auto industry is calling for. We're talking for a recalibration of the measures. And the measures are a combination of duties to protect the local market and the production incentives that we gain for producing locally here in South Africa. And these need to be recalibrated and readjusted. And the reason for that is if you earn these production incentives, but you can't monetize them due to the fact that the local market is shrinking and our share of the market is shrinking, the business case goes all out of balance. And so we're calling for small adjustments of these topics to make the business case, for example, you've mentioned for new product decisions for existing manufacturers be passed by our headquarters, but also so that other manufacturers are attracted to South Africa. We're not scared of competition. What we want, though, is we want that the other manufacturers who partake in the local market also are part of the solution that South Africa needs, which means contributing to the economy, bringing their suppliers onto South African shores, creating jobs in South Africa, and thereby being part of the solution, and then, of course, being part of the local market and all competing for the local market. Another aspect we added very clearly is we are very concerned about affordability for the consumer, and therefore we've raised the topic of the ad valorem tax, which used to be a luxury tax, so it was on expensive cars. Now, in fact, every single car in the South African market draws ad valorem tax. So that affects the consumer negatively, and we want that curve adjusted, which would help the consumers and help grow the car market. And that's what we need. We need a bigger car market, a stronger car market domestically here in South Africa. So this rebalancing is what we propose. I think we have a very good paper submitted, and we hope that government listens positively and takes action. Addressing affordability for the South African consumer, and thereby helping to actually grow the car market. And that's what we need. We need a strong, vibrant car market here in South Africa, ideally with locally produced products dominating the local car market. But I think it's also important, we need a mix of local and imported cars in the market in order to meet consumer demand and to create healthy competition. So that's all part of a healthy car market.
And the other thing, as you mentioned, it's beyond just the automotive manufacturers, it's the parts suppliers. That's a much larger industry. The more manufacturers that come to South African shores, the bigger that industry is going to become, and hopefully the cheaper the parts will become for all of the automotive sector, keeping prices at relative low levels. So that's the other added thing, and of course the additional jobs and the impact on the economy in general, which becomes quite an important thing. But looking ahead, let's talk a bit about Peter van Binsbergen himself. What are your biggest ambitions for BMW in sub-Saharan Africa over the next few years? And how do you see the brand evolving in a market that's increasingly digital driven? There's automotive vehicles happening around the world. There's all kinds of things that seem to be not happening on this continent yet. Where do you see it going here?
Well, I certainly want to see BMW to continue to thrive along with the manufacturers who've invested here in South Africa and are here being part of the solution. We've been here 52 years already, and we want to be here for another 52 plus. So what we will continue to do definitely is producing products that South Africans want. And you mentioned earlier on the X3, it was a strategic coup to actually switch from the 3 Series to the X3 here in Plant Roslyn, because it allowed us to produce probably the most popular car in the world and also the most popular car in South Africa on local shores. And we already have electrified our plant, as I mentioned earlier on, with the plug-in hybrid.
Yes.
And as you mentioned, the plug-in hybrid is produced only in South Africa for the world. So we have a unique offering to the world, and that, of course, secures us good product allocation. And in fact, last year was the highest production in history for BMW in South Africa. So we're in a very good space, and we're very fortunate and thankful to be in that space. But what we need to see for the future is, of course, that we continue to deliver what the markets that we serve want. So if we are going to carry on focusing on Europe, we need to electrify our production. We need to ultimately move to a BEV, maybe here in South Africa. That's one strategy we're looking at. But BMW operates under what we call technology openness, or giving customers the power of choice. And I think that's the most important thing that we'll continue to do here in South Africa. Our factory is very, very flexible. We produce petrol, diesel engined and plug-in hybrid vehicles all on one production line here in South Africa for the world. And that's what we'll continue to do. You talked about autonomous driving. To be honest, autonomous driving is an interesting thing for the right use case. Okay. And where do you want it? Do you want it where it can add to safety, where maybe because the cars are connected, it can help congestion, it can help for very long drives, trucking and so on. But the downside of autonomous driving, of course, is that it costs jobs and it's very expensive. So if you look at South Africa, we have an unemployment problem. So we don't need to replace our truck drivers and taxi and Uber drivers with autonomous. So definitely, I don't see that as something that we want for our economy right now. The other aspect of autonomous driving, as I mentioned, it's very costly. So if labor is very expensive, it might make sense. But in South Africa, I think due to unemployment, that's not what we want. And finally, think about it. Autonomous driving works well when the gross of the cars are autonomous. So where you have almost everybody autonomous because they talk to each other. So that is very, very expensive. And you look on our roads here in South Africa, we have very many old cars, very many entry-level cars. They will never be able to afford autonomous tech. And so therefore, I think the benefits of autonomous won't be reached in South Africa simply because it would take decades to get the whole car park autonomous. And I don't believe we can afford it here in South Africa. So I'd rather focus on giving customers choice, giving them great cars that are fun to drive and safe to drive and efficient, and growing the car park here in South Africa and helping people with mobility.
Yeah, and talking about some fun cars, there's certainly a lot of fun cars happening on the mini side of the business. And you've introduced the new rugged series, and there's a fully electrified version. So there's certainly a lot of fun happening in that mini segment. Are you looking to introduce more entry-level vehicles, or are you going to stick to your niche? You're going to stick to that luxury side of the vehicles?
Well, BMW is a premium automotive manufacturer, the BMW Group. So everything we do is premium, and we will continue to strengthen our strengths. But we, of course, continuously look at affordability. And we've just recently introduced something which we call a pure design edition on the BMW 1 Series and the BMW X1 and X3. These are products which are priced at the right price point with the right equipment, and also together with financial services at very affordable monthly installments through our Select offer, which is a guaranteed future value offer. So I think we'll carry on sharpening that pencil wherever possible, working together with our government submission. If government adjusts ad valorem, for example, we definitely will look at passing that benefit on to the consumer. And so therefore, we will continue to work on additions and ideas to make our vehicles affordable. But we will stay in the premium segment. There's no doubt about that. The rugged model you mentioned, it's available from Mini in the Countryman and from BMW in the X3. That's really appealing to South Africa's love of life, let's say, and using the more off the beaten tracks, which we have here in South Africa. So the vehicle comes with all-terrain tires and protective elements on the vehicle, so you can really enjoy those off-road environments without worrying about your car. So I think we're trying to appeal to giving South Africans a maximum choice, but always with affordability in mind, and we'll continue to do that.
Just a last question, a personal one to you. You mentioned there's the new BMW, I think, I can't remember the Motorrad motorbike that's going to be introduced, and you've already placed your order. But if you could choose, which BMW would you choose to drive? Any from the past, from the future models that are coming in? What would be your personal choice for driving around in South Africa?
That's a really, really difficult question when you mention the past, because immediately I think of Gusheshe, the 325 IS or a 333i. But you'd say practical for driving every day here in South Africa today. And for me, it would probably be the diesel X5 or the diesel X7, because those vehicles are so versatile. They're fuel efficient. They do a wonderful range on a full tank of fuel. They're comfortable. They handle beautifully. So probably if I had to take one BMW, it would be an X5 diesel or maybe an X7 diesel if I could afford it. But my heart lies in some of the products we've mentioned, like a 325 IS or the beautiful 3-liter CSI, from the early 70s.
Yeah.
There's so many beautiful cars. It's a really hard choice, and that's why I'm a favorite fan of multi-car garages, because you don't have to choose one car then.
You got one for every day then.
If I could afford it.
Peter van Binsbergen, I really appreciate you giving us some time and some insights. And obviously, with your NAMSA hat on, you have a big role to play in the future of the industry. And really heartfelt congratulations on the efforts that you and the industry have done so far. And we hope that those efforts pay off and that we see the industry growing from strength to strength and not diminishing as we've seen over the last couple of years. So, Peter van Binsbergen, thank you so much. Any last thoughts from you?
Greg, thanks for your time and thanks for the conversation. I think what's most important, I think, with the NAMSA hat on, is that we're fighting for the industry here. We're not fighting for ourselves, and actually we're fighting for jobs in South Africa. And that's a choice we need to make, right, together with the government. Do we want the industry here? Do we want the jobs here in South Africa? I believe we do. And therefore, our objective is to continue to offer South Africans great choice of products at the right price, but keep the jobs in South Africa.
Fantastic. Peter, we're going to leave it there, and hopefully we'll have future chats with you. And hopefully when we have those future chats, we would have had some good news from our government as well.
I look forward to it, Greg, and hopefully I can show you the BMW 450 when I get it. It's going to be a great bike, and it's really going to open up that segment for new customers here in South Africa. It's going to be really the entry-level GS for South Africa.
Can't wait. Thank you, Peter.
See you, Greg. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.